Alright, thanks guys for checking back in. So today we're still working on Justin's 71 Plymouth Scamp, and what we've got going on today more than anything is we've got a pretty bad transmission pan leak. I think somebody's had it off once before. We all know that the Mopar 727 904 transmission pans, the factory ones, once you take them things off and you put them back on, good luck making sure that they're actually sealing up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the old one off and replace it with an aftermarket deep pan for the 904 transmission. So hang in there with us guys as we do this today, and we'll kind of talk you through it and what all it takes to do. Alright, so you guys can see that this pan is leaking pretty bad. In fact, we actually have several leaks underneath of here, but the one that we're going to be focused on is this one here, the transmission pan. Now, just a quick little step of knowledge for anybody that's interested. How do you know when you're going to go buy a pan if you have a 727 transmission or a 904 transmission? The fastest and easiest way to do this is simply look over on the passenger side, and what you're going to look for is this rail right here. On a 904, this is flat. On a 727, it's going to have a little kick out right there. That is the only big difference that you need to pay attention. If it's flat, it's going to be a 904. If it's got the kick out on the side, then it's a 727, and that'll tell you which pan you need to order as a replacement. Now, this does not have a drain plug in it, so this is going to be a little dirty, a little grimy, and a little messy. So here we go. Make sure you have a good trusty catch pan. Oh boy. That one just came all the way. Now, one thing you're going to notice right quick is I've taken the bolts out of this back side, but I'm not taking them all out from the front. There's a reason why. This has actually got a little spot right here that we're going to be able to use to pry this down and drain all the fluid out. Remember, this does not have a drain plug in it, so you get one of two options. You can let the fluid out nice and slow under your control, or you can take all the bolts out, have it drop, fall on the floor, make a huge mess. You're going to cuss and swear about it, and you're going to do a lot of cleanup. So do it this way. Go all the way around, make sure everything is just loose. So I've got them mostly all loosened up, and I'm going to slide my catch pan under here, and I'm going to try to crack this pan open just a little bit. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, baby, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So now what can easily happen is if you pop this thing open real fast, all 8 quarts of that transmission fluid is going to go everywhere. So take your time, go slow, leave the bolts in the front so that it hinges. Remember, you're not worried about tearing up the pan, you're replacing it. Now, if you were going to use this pan and just put a new gasket in it, do this really, really slow and very easy as I take this flathead screwdriver and just slowly pry the surfaces apart. Now, it's going to make a mess pretty much no matter what you do. So what you want to do is just try to minimize the mess the best you can. So we're going to sit back and let this drain. We'll be right back when it's drained out and we're ready to take those bolts back out.
2 hours later.
This next part's going to be messy. We've drained most of it out. There's no easy way of doing this other than rolling up your sleeves, finding a couple of rags or towels that you really don't care much about anymore, and you're going to take some more bolts out and get more of the fluid out. Now, if you've done this right, you haven't totally broken the seal apart, so hopefully the back side of this is still being held in pretty good. It just barely opened up the back, and that somebody used some good silicone on the gasket. If I take these back bolts out, we're going to hope that the whole pan doesn't just drop down. We're getting ready to find that. We're getting ready to find that out pretty quick, though. Make sure you got your sleeves rolled up really good, and a towel nearby. All right, I got my towel, got my screwdriver, got my sleeves rolled up. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and drop this down and see what happens next. Whoop. So I was not very effective in catching all the fluid. Hence the reason for the towel and having your sleeves up all the way. So now I'm going to just set this down here in my catch pan, and I'm going to let this thing drip out for quite a while. Once this is dripped out, we're going to come back, we're going to take the filter out, and then we'll start working on the new kit. Alright guys, so now we've got the pan down, we've kind of got the big part of the dripping done. I'm going to use my dirty trusty rag up here to kind of wipe things off a whole lot. I'm not too worried about it on the filter, well, to be honest, because, well, we're putting a new filter in it. We are going to do a little bit of inspections while we're in here. We've got to pull this old gasket material off, clean up everything. Do not think that you're going to get all this fluid out. This thing would drip for days because there's just fluid all over the place inside of this. So you're just going to be doing the best cleanup that you can around here before we get ready to put the new gaskets in. And as you can see, I've got some spots in here where that gasket did not peel off. Make sure you peel all of that stuff off and that it's a really good clean surface when you get ready to go put the new gasket and pan on. Now, this one's stuck on pretty good actually. There we go. The factory ones are normally the flathead, and you've got to be really careful about these because it's very easy to strip them off. Get in there, make sure you're really good, make sure you know your lefty, loosey, righty, tighty kind of situation. So we want to make sure that we take this out, put a firm grip on it, and turn. Do not strip these things out. If you strip them out or lose them, and you're going to be in a world of trouble really fast. I like to leave the pan right below where I'm at, and I drop that it goes right into the pan and it doesn't go anywhere else. Now whenever I drop this down, more fluid is going to come out again. Like I said, this thing has got fluid in it all over the place, and it's going to drip for a really long time. Oh, yep, there's more of that fluid coming out that I told you about. So don't assume once you got the pan down you can remove your catch pan or whatever. Oil dry is going to be your friend in all of this. So I'm going to let this fall down into here. We'll do an inspection on this a little bit later. All right, sleeves are up. I've got lots of towels. I'm going to let it drip out some more, and then we'll get started on it again in a little bit. When you guys are ready to start wiping this down, I cannot express enough, use clean rags. If you have a rag that is dirty, that's got oil and stuff on it, you've got to make sure you use something good and clean. Work on the outside areas first. Get as much of this transmission fluid off of the sides as you can. It's going to be important so that you get a really good seal. I'm going to use my towel. Just going to work my way around. Oh yeah, there we go. Looking pretty good. Alright, so the next part is we've got to get this cleaned up around the sides. We've got to get a good clean surface for the new gasket and pan. So the way I do it, I get a scratch pad essentially, and if you're not already wearing your safety glasses, make sure you get them on. You don't want any of this stuff getting into your eyes. So I've got my safety glasses on, and I'm just going to work my way around. And I'm just going to clean these edges up and break off any of that rough debris that's kind of hanging up in there. Now some guys will tell you there's different cleaners that you can use, because if you end up with anything left on it like this right here, and there is, it won't seal up correct. I don't know if you guys can see it well enough, but there's a little bit of silicone still left on here. You've got to get in there, and this has got to be a clean, smooth surface all around. I'm just using this scratch pad to knock off any of the big things. Then we've got to get the surface scraper out, and we've got to clean and prep those surfaces. We've got the surface all cleaned off, and we're ready to start putting things together. So we're putting a deeper pan in this time, which will require us to have an extension block for the filter assembly. So the kit should come with the machined block, a gasket, the filter, and new longer screws to put into the filter. So it's a little tricky. You got to make sure that you know where the holes go in, because if you look, once you pull the screws out, it's not very easy to tell where everything actually goes. Now the trick is, you need to understand, before you put the filter in, you need to make sure there's an open hole right here. This has to line up with the extension block. You have to make sure that this hole in the filter lines up with the extension block. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm gonna take one of my screws and I'm just gonna kind of hang it on here and push that through. Then I'm gonna hold it on the back. I'm gonna get my gasket. My gasket has to go on there just in the same orientation. And now I'm getting ready to actually put this up in the block. All right, so we have the filter, the extension block, and the gasket. We're gonna start back here on the back side. And just get that one started. Starting on the back side so that we can easily see the front side. There we go. And that's gonna go in there like that. Of course, everything is slippery because transmission fluid, man, it's some slippery stuff. Okay, we got those two in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and grab the last third bolt. There we go. Tighten everything up, make sure it's good and clean. So now we have the filter with the extension installed. All right, so the new pan that I purchased for this is the Summit High Capacity Trans Pan for a 904. So it is a cast aluminum high capacity, which is nice. It's going to be a lot better for dissipating heat and working on everything. So first thing I wanted to show you guys, it does come with all the hardware. You already saw us install the filter and the extension block. So that's not in here, but it does come with all the hardware, which is nice. It comes with the bolts with a little bit of Loctite on there. They're nice, really nice hardware, and it's got a nice drain plug. What I don't like about the kit, and what really aggravates me more than anything, is the gasket that came in the kit. So this is the gasket that they sent in this kit. Luckily, they sent us two of them, because I'm going to be honest, this is absolutely horrific. So for Summit Racing, for the cost of this pan and the quality of the actual pan and the good hardware, you totally screwed the pooch on providing a gasket like this. So the one that we did, so the one that I have gotten straightened out, that's as good as it gets being straightened out. This, in my honest opinion, is a horrible joke. Let me show you guys how thin that gasket actually is. This is just a horrible joke. The pan overall is really nice. I mean, it's cast aluminum. It's got its nice drain plug. I do wish the drain plug was a little bit more recessed. I'm a little worried about how far that's going to hang down. They could have built that in to the pan itself, but they didn't. Overall, it's really nice. So what are we going to do to solve this debacle with the pan gasket? Well, that's an easy fix. Go down to your local parts house and pick you up the right Fill-Pro gasket. They're not going to be bent. They're not going to be shaken out. In this case here, it is a TOS 18667 for the 904 transmission. So we're going to put that on there with a little bit of the gasket sealant. That's what we're going to use, and then we're going to get this thing put on the car. I want to make sure I show you guys one extra tip. Now I've got my gasket sealer on both sides of the gasket down here. I've laid my gasket on here. A good tip is to go ahead and put all of the bolts all the way in around, so that you know that the gasket is properly aligned. That way when you get ready to go put it up on the transmission itself, you know everything is lined up and the bolts are going to go in right away and easy into the actual transmission. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there fighting with getting the gasket to line up, and you're going to need to be pushing and shoving it around, and you could run a chance of actually tearing or messing up your gasket. So put the bolts in ahead of time, push the gasket down all the way around, let it get good and seat it in there, and then give it about 10 minutes, and then go put it on the car. All right, so guys, we're ready to put the pan on here. We're gonna do one last little cleanup all the way around. Make sure that surface is really good and clean before we put the new pan on. All right, so we have the new pan. Got a little bit of sealant on everything. And we're ready to put it in. I notice we've got a little bit of a spot here we're gonna have to work around in order to get that to line up. And then we're going to, here we go, pretty close. All right, I'm gonna grab a bolt out of my handy dandy pocket and get one of these babies started, hopefully. Once you've got one or two bolts in there, start working your way all the way around, slowly tightening up and getting all the bolts in to hold the gasket and the pan in place. Now once you've got them all in, you're going to go ahead and hand tighten everything up, because you can easily crush that gasket or bend the pan depending on how strong or thick that pan is. So take your time, follow the steps that are listed in each pan's instructions, and torque them down to the correct number by hand. Alright, so the last thing to do is to install the drain plug. Before I do the finish install on the drain plug, I'm going to go ahead and put it in and make sure that it's threading up in there really good. Again, test fitting things before you do your final is really important. Alright, so we're pretty good and tight. I'm going to take it back out. I'm going to put some sealant on it. Got some just old school thread sealant tape on there. Now we're going to go ahead and put it in. All right, there we go, guys. It's all installed. Overall, pretty good. One of the bolts didn't line up really good. Had to do some maneuvering around on that. The gasket that comes with this absolutely sucks. Go buy your own gasket and some good gasket sealant.